Good morning, everyone. It is time for Mind Mastery. Dave Huber here, Blair Nightingale, coming at you live from a couple of different places. I'm at my favorite coffee shop in Corsicana. You're coming to us from what, home base, Blair? Is that where
I am in Dallas, yes.
Dallas, very good. Well, so for those of you who are joining us, this may be your first Mind Mastery. And if it is, you are dropping in at episode 2 of the Anatomy of a Breakthrough. Last month, we talked about pain and the role it plays in breakthrough. We discussed how pain has 2 different purposes. The first purpose is to get you to stop. Pain can make you stop good things. It can make you stop bad things. And so it's important when you are experiencing some kind of pain in your life, whether it be financial, whether it be familial pain, whether it be something with friendships, or even in just a walk of faith, you might experience pain to get you to just kind of stop whatever it is that's going on. Like I said, it could be something good, it could be something bad. Pain can be used by the enemy to get you to stop doing something good. We call that disruption following your intention. It can also be used to get you to stop doing something bad. We talked about physical pain. If you're experiencing some sort of physical pain, like you break an arm, the body tells you there's pain there. Stop using the arm. And so the purpose of pain is to get you to stop. When you experience pain, ask yourself, what is it the pain is trying to get me to stop? Is it good or is it bad? We also talked about the second purpose of pain, which is to unify, to show you that you're not alone, right? So like when you hurt a thumb or an arm or a hand or something, you get injured, you bring that in close to the rest of the body. The whole body turns its attention to wherever the pain is. We as Christians are a part of the body of Christ. So when we are experiencing pain, we should recognize that we are a part of a body that will come and regroup with us, unify around the person who's experiencing pain, and help that person through the pain. So recognize when in pain that you're also not alone. So we talked about those things last week. And this week, we're going to kind of move on down the line of the anatomy of breakthrough. The second part of the anatomy of a breakthrough has to do with making room, right? Willingness to surrender, Blair. That's what we're going to talk about today. That is our topic. And these all play together. It's not like there's pain and then there's this kind of work together, which we'll see a little bit of today. Blair, do you have any thoughts about the willingness to surrender?
Yeah, I mean, I think for folks who were here last time, quick recap that Dave gave is important. The breakthrough, I said to a group in Pittsburgh this weekend, breakthrough can be such a overused word, perhaps, in certain circles that, when we overuse words or we just use them lightly, then they kind of lose some of their meaning. But what we're talking about here is you are in one spot, one thing is happening, you're getting one kind of fruit, and you're saying, in that area, I would like to be in a different spot than I'm in. I would like to be getting different fruit that I'm getting. In any area, big or small. And it's important to pick and define, but that's what we're talking about here. And what I'm getting at is that the, quote, breakthrough is never just the fruit on the tree. There were so many things that happened before the fruit showed up on the tree. Root system, fruit system. We want to create new outcomes by focusing on the new outcome. My wife and I just started a great book. I know we probably got some folks out there that have read it already. Atomic Habits. And Atomic Habits really focuses on that similar concept where you are focusing on outcomes, but not the processes that are creating the outcomes. And what Dave and I have discovered here is that there's always a process to break through, right? And so that second one is, each one of these, Dave, is so important. So when I focus on one of them, I want to say to people like, this is really the one that's like crucial. But the reality is they're all crucial. And the reason for me that I get that feeling at every stage, okay, that we're talking the second one today, the willingness to make space, or I would use the word surrender, is because each stage requires the individual to make a choice. The individual makes a choice. What Dave and I want to do is bring understanding so that you can go, oh, that's the spot I'm at. And then the second thing is, oh, that's the decision that I am currently in the middle of. A lot of people don't get breakthroughs that they could get in the moment because they don't understand the decision that they're in the middle of. See, when you and I work on autopilot, I told people in Pittsburgh, what happens to us is not the most important thing. What we come to believe about what happens to us is the most important thing, okay? Because they create ways that we subconsciously respond to life, things that we think. This is why coaches, mentors, community is so powerful. Time with the Holy Spirit is so powerful because it identifies things that are at work within us that we maybe didn't even realize were there. Why is that important in the context of what I'm saying? Because if you don't understand what's happening on that level, you may not recognize that you're already making choices in the midst of these stages. You are probably in some areas, like me, making decisions in some areas that you've been making that way for years, decades, a lifetime. Now, that's maybe on some of the bigger things, but, you know, somebody said to me, the way you do small things is the way you do everything. Well, we're discovering at every level here, what's the decision that is being made in the midst. So we talked about pain recognition last time. Well, what's the decision most people make with pain, Dave?
Run away, get away, avoid
exactly. Get away from it, avoid it, right? Make excuses for it, push it down the road, kick the can, as we say, hide it, smother it, medicate it, numb it, ignore it, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, right? That was last time. Now we're going, all right, I recognize it. It's there. I see it. I feel it. We were, again, with the group in Pittsburgh this weekend looking at areas of Wall Street and how they don't serve us, the government and how they don't serve us, right? And places that really, I think, without getting into all of it, we just realized, I don't know if I am as secure in the financial system as maybe I thought I was. Well, I can tell you what, Dave, there was some pain recognition going on in that room. We passed a mic around. Some people were like, this makes me angry. I'm angry about what's going on, right? I'm sad about what's going on. I'm scared about what's going on. And then, of course, we always want to move to hope, but there's recognition. So then the question is, okay, now what do I do? Now that's the question. That's what we jump to. Now, before we can even get to what we actually do, you're starting to go, all right, I'm going to have to make some space to explore what that might be. And I'm going to read a little bit more of the definition from Dave and I's writing here on this specific stage. But you would have to begin to have space in you to go, all right, I'm going to begin a quest, a search to do something different in this area. Now, I may not even know what that is yet, okay? But just beginning to add space, time. What's your most valuable resource, guys? It's time. It's time. So you choose to spend your time. I like to say we could spend our time. It's better to invest our time. Okay. Investing your time into making space. Okay. I will just say this quick as an example. I have some family members. I would go visit them. I'd see them about once a year, sometimes twice, usually once. And there were there was just some family dynamics that they were working through. Okay. You know, there had been a death in the family and it left a mark. And one thing I'm noticing about this, we come on here, we talk about real stuff. You know, Dave and I obviously are coaching trading and financial education most of the time. This gives us a space to broaden that. It is that. It's very much that. But it's also an opportunity for it to be bigger than that. So in short, this family member, I would go home, I would sit with them, we would talk, and we would get to the point where we would talk and there would be real pain recognition, Dave. And then it would be like, okay, for me, here's some suggestions that I have. I can't fix it all. I'm not the Holy Spirit, but I can make suggestions because I know things that really help folks that are in that kind of a situation, things that have even helped me along the way, Dave. And there would be a recognition, but not a willingness to make space. Oh, yeah, that's a good idea. That's okay. Yeah, I could do that. But it's going to take some adjustment. It's going to take some courage. It's going to take an investment of time, potentially some financial resources in the case of a counselor is what I was talking about in this specific instance, but not necessarily they could have gone and seen a pastor. I mean, I made these suggestions, not to say that they had to take my suggestions, Dave, but here's what the next year I come back, guess what? We have the same pain recognition conversation.
That's a problem.
A year of life. You're not guaranteed another day.
Yep.
An entire year of life had gone by and no willingness. How do I know if I have willingness to surrender and make space? It's pretty simple. You've surrendered and made space. That's how you know you're not until that happens. And they hadn't really been willing to do that. Now, I'll just say quickly, Dave, I know you can jump in here. I don't even know how many years. I'm gonna just give an estimate right now. 4 to 5 years this happened. Okay. They went out and finally joined through their church a group that gave them support. They went and did that's an 8-day intensive on just personal development, faith-based, radical self-responsibility, community.
Sounds like they were making space.
And they came out of that, and you know what they wanted to do, Dave? And we'll get here later when we're in the other stages of the breakthrough. They got so much breakthrough. They were like, Blair, you have to go do this thing. You have to. And they paid for me to go.
Wow.
Later, I actually did go do this, and it was a phenomenal weekend. Okay.
That's cool. That
aside, they made space. They made meaningful space. For some of us, it might be, I'm going to read a book. It depends on the nature of what the pain is, but we're making space. So I'll just read quickly. I and not someone else at this level am no longer okay living in that state of pain, and I desire what is possible more than I desire to avoid the challenges of change. Change always comes with a challenge. It comes with a new investment. I say it all the time. Most people choose definitely same over possibly better. Definitely same, possibly better. Okay.
Well, and this is where the pain comes in, right? Like, I'm tired of feeling this pain, and I'm willing to go through whatever pain is necessary to escape this pain and get to the pleasure. And we talked a little bit about that last month. You mentioned the pain pleasure tipping point, right? And so it's making that decision. And I love that you use that word, Blair, because I think therein lies the problem, because most people recognize that a decision has to be made. Some, I think you're correct in saying, some don't even realize that there's a decision that has to be made, but most people recognize something has to change, And then they might get to a point where they go, okay, I'm going to make a change. And how many of you, put it in the chat if you have ever said, I'm going to change something, and then maybe you begin to try, and then something happens, disruption follows intention, life slaps you in the face, and all of a sudden you get sidetracked and you don't actually make the change. How many of y'all have had that happen? Seeing some raised hands, seeing lots of me's, yes, of courses. And Jenny puts, the hard you know is more familiar than the hard you don't know. That's really good. My wife likes to say, you gotta choose which hard thing you want, right? Like, pick your hard. Like, do you want the hard life of not reaching the goals that you want? Or do you want the hard life of going for the goals that you want? Because both are kind of hard, except one of them leaves you without the goals and one of them leaves you with the goals. So choose the hard, right? And so many of us in here have experienced that, right? We've experienced where I try to make the decision and then it falls apart. And I'm going to help you understand why that occurs. So the word decision is a compound word which contains the word scission. Who knows what scission means? What does it mean, scission? Okay, precise, close. It is a precise action to cut. That's right, Artie. It means to cut, cutting. And so what most people don't realize is that we're actually pretty terrible at making decisions. We're great at saying we want to do something, but when it comes to decision making, most people are terrible at making decisions. I used to be very bad at this. Let me tell you how bad I used to be at making decisions, Blair. I'd go to a restaurant and I'd open a menu and I was always the last one to order because I had to read everything. And then I pined over, do I want this or do I want that? And then there was this idea of, well, if I get this, what if I don't like it? And I could have had that. And it makes it hard to make the decision. Alicia says, oh my gosh, this is me, right? So it was very difficult to make a decision because making that decision meant I didn't have the other thing. And that's the reality of it. If you want to know if you're good at making decisions, a very basic way to test it is go to a restaurant and order something off the menu without making price a decision maker. So in other words, decide I get to order anything, and now without letting price be the deciding factor, be like, which do I want? And you will have a very difficult time choosing, because to make a decision means to cut yourself off from all other possibilities, right? So when it comes to making a decision, guys, you've got to literally not just decide, not just say, I'm going to do this. By making a decision, you have to cut yourself off from not doing this thing, right? And so that requires a level of integrity that most Christians do not have. Let me explain. How many of us actually care about the way the world perceives us, the way our friends, our family, our coworkers, the community around us? How many of us actually care about the way other people perceive us? Let's be honest here. I kind of care about it. It's pretty important as a Christian for the world around me to see me as someone with integrity. And so if we tell people, we may be non-committal, right? If we have a hard time making decisions, we may be non-committal to the people around us because we don't want to be perceived as someone who lacks integrity. But if we do commit, we tend to really try to make sure we get it done so that we're not perceived as someone who lacks integrity. That's pretty common. Now, if you're someone who doesn't really care about what other people think about you, then you are more likely to say you're going to do something and then not do it. In other words, you're more likely to lie. But we as Christians have a very difficult time making lying jive with our Christianity. Like, we have to be able to be Christians and we have to be able to be honest Christians. And so because of that, one of two things happens. Either we're non-committal, so we will not ever say we're going to do something, Or we're going to say we're going to do something, and when something comes up, we will look for, Blair mentioned this, every reason why it's not our fault that we can't follow through. Every reason why, it was not really a commitment in the first place. We try to place blame elsewhere. Now, there are some of us who really do try our hardest, and many of us on here may be this way. If you're the type of person who really tries to keep your word to the people around you, let me know. Put that in the chat, because there's a second aspect to this that I want to bring up. We got a couple of people raising their hands. That's good. You're trying. Some of us, we might even have a hard time just saying yes, because we know that we're non-committal in this area. It's not that we don't keep our word. It's that we never give our word because we don't want to commit. That happens, right? And I learned long ago to swear to your own hurt, says Rick. Okay. Well, so the Bible tells us, let your yea be yea and your nay be nay. So when you say yes to something, let it really be a yes, right? If you say no to something, let it really be a no. Here's what happens with us internally. We may feel like we are people of integrity because we keep our word to the people around us. But most Christians lack integrity with the person they talk with the most, and that's themselves. So in other words, you may say that you're going to do something, and you lack the integrity to actually follow through for yourself to do it, because we don't care as much how we feel about ourselves as we care about the way the world feels around us. What do you mean? Well, I mean, like, I want to be perceived as a person of integrity. I want to be perceived as a person who is righteous, who's good, who's helpful, who's kind, who's loving, who's honest, right? And to the people around me, I may be that way, but internally, I don't have a very good opinion of myself. How many of y'all struggle with a high opinion of yourself? If you have ever struggled with that, there is a reason why most Christians struggle with a very low opinion of themselves. We tend to let the world tell us it's because of past experiences where other people harmed us, right? You think of the stereotypical daddy issues type thing, right? Dad messed me up. Mom messed me up. A former spouse messed me up, or someone in my life who I trusted broke that trust and messed me up. True. But what did Blair say at the beginning of this? It doesn't matter as much what happened to us as how we believe what happened to us. So you have a choice. You have a decision that you can make, even when bad things happen to you, to allow that to be the victim card you play when making decisions in the future, or to instead say, well, that's on them and they're going to answer to God for that. What's on me? What can I do to have integrity in my life, to make the decision to cut myself off from not achieving the goal? I have to achieve the goal. I've got to cut myself off from that, from not achieving it. If you want to increase your confidence, the very first and most important thing that you can do to increase your confidence is to begin to keep your word to yourself. Like when you say you're going to do something for yourself, to yourself, with yourself, even when no one else is watching, do it. I'm going to get up in the morning a little bit extra early and do a little bit of quiet time. Okay, do that. I'm going to get up and actually eat breakfast in the morning because breakfast is supposed to be healthy for me. Okay, do that. I'm going to drink more water. I'm going to get more sleep. I'm going to take a meaningful action with my finances. I'm going to take a meaningful action in this relationship to repair the relationship that has gone sour. It's so important that you keep your word to yourself so you can increase your confidence, because without that confidence, you won't have any meaningful breakthrough in your life whatsoever. So when Blair says this is so important, like, you cannot underestimate how important this really is.
So, okay. So listening to Dave, there's something, the next stage, which we're not going to go into today. The next stage is seeking empowerment. Okay. Pain recognition. That's its whole stage. Now I'm actually at a space that I'm willing to surrender and make space for what? For something new, a different investment. Something has clicked inside of me. It's not even that I've necessarily done anything new yet, right? So Dave is describing how this is happening. I mean, in some ways, almost at the same time, right? Oh, I'm finally willing to make space here. I'm willing to choose a different investment, right? Because everything is an investment. That's where that indecision comes. I don't want to separate myself from my time, my comfort. Somebody said in the chat, comfortable and limited is attractive versus uncomfortable and unknown. That's what growth is. That's what it is. And you surround yourself with people who have outcomes that you want, breakthroughs that you want. It's not completely invisible. We know where, but the point is that before we even get into seeking empowerment, this is what happens. But it shifts into, okay, now I'm going to go to the next stage, which is partnership and power for beginning to walk out what to use that space that I now have for. Okay, that's so, but it's important to say where we're going because there is a distinction between the two. But having the ability, the decision to make space, particularly, and this is key, in an environment where I'm experiencing pain. Now, Dave and I say that this may not be the pain, as we defined last time, could simply be discontent. I know I'm made for more. I got a good marriage. I want a great one, right? You've probably all heard good is often the enemy of great. You know, James Smith, some of you guys know James Smith. Some of you guys don't know him. He's really a world-renowned speaker. James, he's really a real estate expert. But he's also a very abrasive personality up on the stage. And in short, if you listen to a little bit of him speak, he'll often say something like this. And he was zooming into the room like we're doing right now on Sunday in Pittsburgh. He was speaking to the group we had there in Pittsburgh. And he'll say something like, kind of offensive about the local football team. Right? Other people could say this and everybody would be mad. James says it and somehow the whole room laughs. Okay. But he'll basically say, congratulations, your stupid NFL team is back. It's that time of year. Right. And what he means is he's trying to drive at this thing that goes, you see your NFL team win and you think you won, but did your family win? Who really won? We're sitting on the couch watching other people win. Now, this isn't about sports for me, okay? And I've heard Myron, a good friend of ours here around TRADEway, say the same thing about TV and movies, which, by the way, my wife's an actress, okay? TV and movies, I don't have a problem with that. But when I am saying, all right, I'm going to watch other people live their dreams while there's an area of my life that's living in a nightmare, or it's underperforming, it's under what's possible, us being prepared for good works in advance that we might walk in them. Jesus comes to the other end of his life and says, Father, I've finished the work you gave me to do. I've finished all the work that you gave me to do. So what we're hitting on here is in an environment of discontent, of potential, not ungrateful. We don't have to be ungrateful. Okay, that's not the same thing. We can be very grateful. Thank you, Lord, for what you're doing. Bring the increase, bring the more. Not just the outpouring of a blessing. He always has blessings. It never runs out. You can't outgive God. It's the best game in town and you'll never win. But the point is that you and I are going further. We're going to win more of a battle, right, against the kingdom of darkness in 2023. We're going to have more influence on our family and on our community and on our world than we've ever had before. Okay. We're going to walk more into the calling and destiny and identity that God has for us than ever before. Not just generally, I'm going to go to church and see where I'm at come January 2nd, right? That's a totally different thing. But it's defining an area that we go, okay, and it may be real visceral pain. It may be pain, but in some ways, there's pain when you injure your shoulder. There's pain when you work out your shoulders and you wake up and they're sore the next day. That's two different kinds of pain, but both need attention, right? So it's just picking, right? It's just picking. By the way, there's so many things we could say, Dave. Let me just throw this in quick. You mentioned indecision, decision. I think that's really important. Fear always produces what it tries to avoid. So if I make no investment, because why? Because I don't want to waste the investment. Your time is your greatest capital. Okay. Your health, your family, your relationships, but your time is what gives you access to everything. Okay. If you can't breathe, suddenly nothing else matters. I promise you. Okay. So time is the greatest, but if I hold back on my time because of the risk, guess what happens? Nothing happens, which is exactly what I was trying to avoid. It's why you hear Dave and I talk about the parable of the talents a lot, right? Because he buried it in the ground. It wasn't just that, you wicked and lazy servant. No, the wickedness and laziness is that the demonic influence is do nothing. Do nothing. Be afraid. Be afraid. Be afraid. You might waste it. You might waste it, Dave. You might waste it, Dave. You might get it wrong. Who did I hear? It was a speech I heard that said, this man said, my father always taught me, I will never, ever, ever be disappointed if you shoot high and you miss. But if you aim low and you hit, you and me are going to have a problem, right? That's what this man's taught. And it radically influenced his life as a young man. So having the decision in this space is a willingness to make surrender happen in a space of pain. All right, maybe possibly better. See, this is Dave. This is where the Holy Spirit is everything to me. Everything to me. Because when I come to him and surrender and I hear his voice, he will, first of all, he will help me get to this stage, willingness to surrender. I've had to pray many times, okay, at different junctures in my life, Lord, I don't want to, but I want to. I absolutely don't have a yes of obedience for you. I know, you and I both know, Lord, my answer is no. Like, I feel like you're leading me, or I need to explore this area because it's, there's a scripture that says that Israel put the Canaanites to forced labor, but they did not utterly drive them out. God commanded Israel to utterly drive them out. And later, it just caused problems.
Yep.
Some of us have areas where we have managed the Canaanites, but we haven't kicked them out. And we're never in the position that God ultimately has for us when that's the case. Now, is that a process? It is. We have more stages to go through here. But being willing to surrender has this piece where I go to the Lord and go, okay, I actually don't even know if I have a yes fully to do what's necessary, but you can give me one. You work and will in me to do your good pleasure. And then the Lord speaks and he gives us vision. Without prophetic vision, the people cast off restraint, the scripture says. So I need vision. I need direction. Lord, tell me what way to go, what to do, For some of us, Dave, the pain recognition is that we're not connected enough to what the Lord wants to say, because let's take an example. We're too busy.
That's a good one.
And there's just so many examples and rabbit trails we could go down here, but because we've got people with so many different situations. But the point is I need to hear from him. I need him to impress himself upon me and lead me so that I can actually get a hold of some of this surrender from him. And then that creates a vacuum. Once that's there, it means you're willing to create some of the space that is currently totally taken up. And doing
the only way you get that to happen is to decide, right? You got to make the space.
Exactly. I was literally just going to go back to your decision indecision space where I go, my indecision is a decision. It's a decision to stay in
Yes.
the spot. And, I'm the kind of guy, Dave mentioned the menu. Like, I know this. I've done literally professional assessments where I was told, Blair, one of your greatest constraints in your life is going to be that you resist change. So when I go to Subway sandwich shop, right, I'm going to get the same dang sub every single time. That's a goofy example, but
Good example.
I've had to literally go, okay, today I'm getting another sub. What's the problem? Well, maybe I don't like it as much as that roast beef sub that I always get. Sometimes you make a decision that's like, okay, that wasn't the one. Now I'm talking to adults today, right? You guys know that how that works, but it's the same thing. But there are areas of your life where emotionally, mentally, and spiritually it feels high stakes and you don't want to get it wrong. And there's fear, and that's what the enemy is using. But on the other side of that fear is the greatest breakthrough that you want in that area. Okay. And we're here to encourage you to surrender and make space. Jenny says, start simple and grow. So I'm going to say one thing and I'm going to turn it back to you, Dave. I like that. Start simple and grow. Give yourself steps. Okay. What was that? What About Bob, that movie? Dr. Leo Mar.
Baby steps, Bob.
Baby steps.
Richard Dreyfuss and
sometimes what we have to do. You have to. I also want to say there comes a time when you've got to cut the cord. When the Lord reveals to you what it means to burn the ships, baby steps is important, but sometimes it's not baby steps. The devil ain't gonna baby step on you. Okay,
it's true.
Sometimes we got to cut the cord. Jesus said, "Cut the hand off, pluck the eye out. Seek wisdom, seek counsel. Take what. There's a whole thing there." But I'm giving, and I'm not saying what you said isn't right. I'm saying yes, and okay. Sometimes, guys, the surrender and willingness to make space, which is our topic today, you know what you got to do. You know what you got to do. And there's far too many voices in this world going, you know what, it's okay. Just stay where you're at and just, and for some of us, there comes times in life where you go, no. Prepare the provisions for in 3 days, the Lord will do wondrous things among you. You're crossing over. That's it. It's time. You're crossing over, and we need incredible courage in those times. And I would just say that, Dave, we all need a lot of courage. We all ought to camp in Joshua 1 and 2, if that's where we feel like we're at. We need a lot of courage. And that comes not from striving, but it comes from being encouraged. It comes from trusting ourselves, like you said, Dave. It comes from understanding how this kind of stuff works. So it's really huge.
When it comes to actually making the decision, and like Blair said, many of you know what you have to do to achieve a goal. Maybe you don't know all the steps, but you know that first step. You know the one thing, maybe it's to overcome a sin habit. You go, I know I have to break this. Or maybe it's to repair a relationship. I know I have to have that hard discussion. Maybe it's a financial decision. I know I have to take some risks with my money and it's uncomfortable for me and I know I have to do it. What is the main thing that keeps you from taking that action? Somebody put it in the chat. What is the main thing that keeps you from taking that action? I don't want just something super general. I mean, yes, I know most of it's going to be fear, but fear of what? Fear of what? What's the main thing? And it doesn't have to be like super specific. Like I'm going to fear that I'm going to, okay, fear of failure. We look at failure in all the wrong ways. One of my favorite Michael Jordan quotes is that he has been trusted to take a shot, to the game-winning shot, like 16 times and missed. And he literally says, he goes through all these times that he failed. He didn't meet the mark. I mean, he was cut from his high school basketball team. And he says, I succeed because I fail. What most of us don't realize is failure is success. It is a part of success. When you fail, you have an opportunity to grow from that failure. And the trap or the deception that Satan wants to put in front of you is that failure is a waste of time. It's not. It's one of the wisest uses of your time, because to fail means you acted, right? It's like you took an action, and if you failed, you actually did something. You ever heard of the process of elimination? Like, that's failure, 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 failure until success, right? But the process of elimination is a process to get you to success. So failure in and of itself is a stepping stone towards the success that you want. And if you really want some encouragement about that, you have to understand that to take the actions required to get to the success you desire, you have to do what this whole idea for today is, and that is submit. In Psalm 18, David says, "For by thee I have run through a troop, and by my God I have leapt over a wall." All right, so that's breakthrough, right? Running through a troop, leaping over a wall. You know, if you look up the words by, right, like by thee I have run through a troop, it means with. It's not, we look at a verse like verse 28 in Psalm 18, verse 29 says, "For by thee I have run through a troop," and we go, oh, God empowered me to do something. But it's not so much that you are just empowered to do it. It's that you're doing it in partnership with God, because by means with. With thee I have run through a troop, and by my God have I leapt over a wall. If you look up by my God, this is one of the coolest things. It literally means that it is a force of concession, Blair, a force of concession. So in other words, the force you use to break through a troop or leap over a wall is the force of conceding to a higher power. I think of it like this, like you got soldiers in battle and they have their guns and they come up against a much harder or stronger or more weaponized enemy, and their guns are too small. And so they have to have bigger guns. Verse 30 says, "As for God, his way is perfect. The word of the Lord is tried." God's way is perfect. It's been 100% success rate. Everyone who's ever tried God's way has succeeded 100% of the time. In whatever area of life it is, continuing in his way is, by very definition, success. It is success. You think of all the people who went through some hard times when following God's way in Scripture. Think of David, think of Abraham, I think of Jacob, Isaac, I think of Esther, I think of Mary Magdalene, right? Like they went through some hard stuff, but they followed his way, and ultimately there was success because it's tried, right? And it says he is a buckler to all those that trust him. That is a force field, by the way. A buckler means shield, but it's an all-encompassing shield. It's not just a shield in front. It's a shield behind, the sides, up, down, left, right, all over. If you are a soldier in the battle and the enemy or the obstacle that you're trying to overcome that you can't get breakthrough on is too big for the guns that you have at your disposal, you have to use the force of concession to put down your gun. That's a place of vulnerability. You put down your weapon, you feel vulnerable. That's the pain we don't like, the pain of the unknown. What if I get shot? But the whole point of doing that is so that you put your trust in the buckler, the force shield, right? This is like that soldier who says, I'm going for the bigger gun, cover me. That's what it's all about, right? Like you've got to put down the understanding, lean not unto your own understanding, right? In all your ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct your paths. You put your weapons of war down, and you go for the bigger weapons, which are his word, his way. It's tried, it's proven, it's 100% success rate. And in order to do that, you're going to have to put trust that even through times of failure, the Lord is covering you. He is your buckler. He's your shield, and he is protecting you so failure won't kill you. That's the thing. Like you will not fail to the point of death. You have to be willing to fail to the point of death, because he will give you a crown of life, right? Like that's the whole thing, is resistant to the point of death. And when you do that, you might get shot a couple times, who knows, but he's going to be your shield. He's going to cover you and make sure that you reach the destination, that you reach the goal. But that takes a force of concession, Blair. That's us submitting to a higher power. And it's not easy to do, but we have to do it. We got to be the people who will make the decisions to do the things that we know we have to do, even though it's uncomfortable, and we have to rest in the hope that we have in Jesus, that he will finish the work that he began in us, right?
Yep.
So
a couple of things then, bullet points, like, okay, one, let's start with areas where we already know there's pain recognition, and we already know that it's an area where we can make some space. We actually may even already know what we're supposed to do with that space. Most of us have some areas of life where we're like, yeah, I already know that. Now you need empowerment. That's the next stage. You need partnership. That's the next stage. I see in the chat a lot of fear of, like, or at least saying a lot of fear of, well, what if it doesn't work, and that kind of thing, which of course is always like, well, yeah, but what if it does? And talking about seeking empowerment next time, wisdom, partnership, community, what I call keys to breakthrough. It's the things you give yourself that are, what's the word? Conducive to growth. Right?
Yep.
Dave say this a million times, but you plant a garden and you create conditions in the garden for whatever you're planning to grow. That's normal. But humans try to do it outside of those conditions. We try to create growth and breakthrough, and we have habits and habitations that don't give us superpower for growth. We do it with tomatoes, and we don't do it with our own lives. And that's weird. It should be weird. It is weird. But that's where we go for optimizing breakthrough. So, okay, so that somebody said in the chat here as well, I didn't want to skip this. It's up in here somewhere where somebody said, hey, is it busyness or is it priorities? And I'll just say quick, if you are aware where your investment, your time is going, and it's in priority and it's in order and you're executing that, yeah, we all want to, just because our life is fullness is not the same as busyness. Busyness is I'm holding on to the train and it's just going. It's just going where it's going. And I'm like just trying to keep up to it. Well, yeah, but you could have a couple of little babies running around the house. Now that's going to be a pretty darn busy house. Does that mean you're caught up in busyness? Right. So we can have fullness. Okay. And it's different than busyness. Busyness, in my definition, is I'm working to feel fruitful, and I'm feeling fruitful because I'm busy. Just because I'm busy doesn't mean I'm fruitful. When I'm clear on what I want to do, when I'm scheduled in how I want to do it, when I'm accountable for the way I do it, and when I am celebratory for what is being done, that's not busyness. But busyness is another week, month, year just went by, and I'm just trying to pay the bills. We're just kind of, I'm not leading it, it's leading me. That's totally different. So I wanted to say that, right?
And let's touch on this idea of, because many of us, we struggle with the concept of I want to plant today and eat today, right? Like Jenny said, I want to plant today and eat today. There's not this feeling of immediate gratification. And we understand that. We know that the gratification comes later. But if you really stop and contemplate, there is an immediate gratification that most of us just don't even think about. And that is, we talk about this whole be, do, have thing, right? Like be the person who will be fruitful, multiply, replenish the earth, subdue it, and have dominion over the fish of the sea, fowl of the air, and everything that walketh upon the face of the earth. So we see that we got to be the people who will do the things that eventually we get to the have. But when you make a decision, you cut yourself off from all other possibilities and you walk in that decision, even when it's hard, even when it's sacrificial, to give up some of the good things in life to get to the great things in life, because good is the enemy of great, right? Even when you make that decision, you have an immediate gratification that occurs. You go, what is that? It doesn't feel like I have immediate gratification. I'm missing things I like to make this happen. When we talk about integrity, how do we talk about it? Do we say, you do integrity, or you be integrity? No, we say, you have integrity. And when you make that decision and you walk in that decision, you immediately have integrity. And I want you to focus on that. I want you to think about that for a second. There's an immediate win there that you can tell yourself, wow, I just had integrity and I did what I said I would do. You might not have the fruit that you're looking for yet, but you're more connected to the root and you're starting to bud. And that bud looks like integrity. And that integrity will give you a starting point, a micro win, a little thing that you can celebrate in your journey towards getting the fruit.
Yeah. Dave, I just wrote it in the chat there, but what you're saying made me think, okay. And I'll be honest, folks, I was asking myself this question because I want to sit with my wife and go, okay, where in our areas are we resisting investing? Investing, because without realizing it, we've gone, yeah, but I want the payout now. Right? I want the payout now. So Dave gave us a tool to go, well, there are micro wins in the now, and we ought to recognize them because they're going to help us. We're going to get that dopamine hit that goes reward system. See, technology, the phone, let's just take the phone. Social media is a big part of it, but just the phone in general. This is scientific. We know that phone, dopamine hit. It's a little thing, right? I'm not saying we're all totally addicted to our phones, although most people are. It's more intense now is what I'm saying, to be in the moment and get the momentary hit than ever before, right? So where in my life am I saying, if I do this today, I won't get the win today that I want, but I'll get the win tomorrow. I'll get the win in the next season that I want. And this is why I said, without prophetic vision, the people cast off restraint. When you can't see it, feel it. This is where we're going. It's the nature of faith. God says, I'm going to take you there. And you go, me? How am I ever going to get, right? Like Moses, you're going to go talk to Pharaoh. What? I could give 100 scriptural examples. He gives vision that's God size, but whatever. You could do this yourself in a smaller area. I mean, you can soak it in prayer, but you can do it. You don't need to have a burning bush encounter, although I hope you have some burning bush encounters because God has a great plan for your life. But the point is like, when I have vision, I have a strong yes. When I have a strong yes, I have a strong no. And when I have a strong no, I don't waste along the way. I invest. See, it takes vision to put your seed in the ground, right? It takes vision to put your seed in the ground. It takes faith to put your seed in the ground instead of just eating it, because it's going to take time to grow. But you'd rather have a harvest than a snack. Okay. You'd rather have a harvest than a snack. Trust me. Okay. And God wants to give you a harvest in the next season that you're going to need to feed on to get your victory in the season after that. You go, I don't understand. Why does God let X, Y, Z happen? Well, there's a lot of reasons to that, guys. There's mystery to this thing. but it's not all as much of a mystery as we may try to sweep under the rug, right? What am I saying? I'm saying, well, what if God gave me a word? I'll tell on my wife a little bit. She'll be okay with this. She felt like the Lord in a certain season of her life said, I want you to take a season of rest. I don't want you to start anything new right now. And what she did, she said, well, there's this thing I really want to do, and I'm going to go, and I'm going to take a class. It was a music class. It was more than a music class. It was a music college. Okay.
Wow.
And looking back, she went, oh, yeah, I missed the season of rest. And now I need that rest for the season that I'm in, and I don't have it. Guess what that season was? A lot harder. You say, well, that's just discipline. I'm saying when God gives us a vision and we don't trust that the seed's going to grow, especially when he says, you're not going to be the one to grow it, I'm going to be the one to grow it, because that's not how American culture works. You got to do it all. In some cases, the work is the rest. Strive to enter his rest. But some cases it's not. Some cases it's a harvest season. You got to get out there. Consider the ant, right? In the book of Proverbs. So it's the Holy Spirit who tells us what time it is. But my point is what if I'm not investing in the next season because my culture is obsessed with instant gratification. And it's so easy to live that way. And then I'm not investing and the seed's not growing. And now I don't have a field full of corn. I just had snacks along the way. And the harvest was going to feed me and a lot of people for a long time. And I was going to sell a bunch of it, which was going to be the resources that God gave me in my household to be able to do the next thing in the next season that I didn't even know was coming yet because he didn't take me that far. See, it all links together, but I ate all the seeds. I had a bunch of snacks, and then I got into that season and I didn't have the money in my house that the Lord was going to give me, but I didn't get it because I didn't even know that was going on. And now
man,
God, how come I'm in this spot? This is terrible. I thought you were good. And it's like, I'm not saying people out there are accusing him. I'm saying, do you see how that plays out? You see how that happens?
So true.
And it's actually really, really important. So when there's pain recognition, God's given us a system in our body that says, ouch, that hurts. It's giving you and me the ability to go, oh, something there isn't working the way God intended it. There is a discomfort or injury that is commanding attention. And I'm going to choose not to numb and ignore that. And as I do that, I'm going to have to face the fact that there might be something that needs to grow, be put back in place, needs some medical attention, any varying degree along the spectrum of intensity. But either way, it might be like, hey, you know what? My legs aren't strong enough. I wish my legs were stronger. I want to be a runner. Okay. Oh, my leg's broken. That's a big problem. I can't even walk. See, those are two different kinds of growth, but they're both things that go, oh, there's some pain recognition here. And so now I'm in a spot where I'm going, I no longer want to live that way. And I'll prove it to myself because I'm actually going to start a new investment. And that's what takes us into seeking empowerment. Some of you guys have said, well, yeah, but I could make a change, but what if it's not the right change? And yeah, we need wisdom. We need partnership. This is only two of the stages, guys. There's 8 stages to a breakthrough. Okay. So we move on from here.
Awesome. Well, so that's what we've got for you today, guys. Blair, just real quick, run through those stages one more time, all the stages so they know what's coming up next. Yeah, and then we'll quits for the day.
I'm just giving you titles here, guys. Okay. So for sake of time, I won't go into the definitions here. Pain recognition. That's number 1. Okay. We did that last time. Willingness to surrender and make space. Okay. New investment, you could say, is the next one. Seeking empowerment. Okay. It's number 3, seeking empowerment. The 4th one is implementation. Oh, so those are different. Seeking empowerment, implementation. Okay, those are different. The next one is achievement. This is where we begin to actually see different results for the first time. We're 5 steps in, And this is the first time we actually started to see something different. Okay. On the outside, not on the inside. On the inside, we started seeing something different right away. Okay. Next one, achievement. Oh, I'm sorry, I said that. Achievement. Continued personal growth. Continued personal growth. And the final one is contagious personal growth. Okay.
So good. So good.
Because it's
So
never
that's
stops.
Was that 8 or was that 7?
Now you got me thinking
This
here.
point of meaningful action. That was the other one. Point of meaningful action, which happens right after seeking empowerment.
Yep.
So you're going to get to that one too. But next month, what we'll get into is seeking empowerment. How do we do that? What are the proper ways to seek empowerment? What are the proper channels to seek empowerment? You go to the wrong place, you get the wrong info, you get the wrong kind of motivation. It's going to lead you down the wrong path. We'll get into that next month. So today, thank you so much for being a part of Mind Mastery. We hope this was helpful for you guys. The second stage of breakthrough, just willingness to surrender and make space in your lives. Do that. Ask the Lord to help you do that. And you'll find that that pain recognition will turn into something that's actually very useful for you. We'll see you next time in Mind Mastery, and then we'll see you in the market. Now take care and have a fantastic afternoon.
Thank you, guys.